4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello. Okay, let's try this again. Am I back? Can you hear me? I think I just need to get a new plug my mic into. Sweet. Yay, we're back. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. I saw it happen and because it gave me like a warning that StreamYard lost connection with my mic. So yeah, my bad, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and just start saying hi to everybody. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button, share it out there. Subscribe if you aren't already. Isla Goddess, welcome. Sam doesn't love me to pay attention. Got it. Noted. Hi, Sam. Got my book ready. Let's go. Yes, Dom bought the book to read along with me. Book in the book hats that's on your character. You buy it. I'll think about it. I might. I don't know. I'll think about it. If anybody would buy it, I should make it, I guess. Thank you for the suggestion. And I still have an allergy type cough thing, so it wasn't as prominent last week, but it might be this week because I've been having troubles the last 2 days. So I have my tea in my schnazzy shape bottle that I'm using as a heated bottle, and also trying to show off because it's fucking cool. I love it. It's rad as shit. Let me take the lid off so y'all can see. Like the artwork is phenomenal, and then it's a great quality metal shaker, but it's got the shaker in the lid, so like you can use it for protein shakes and everything, and it breaks up the chunks and whatnot. Super cool. Someone pointed that out on my post that I made on Twitter yesterday. I freaking love it, but seriously, like this is high quality shit, man. I love it. You can tell that it's heated inside there. The way that popped open. Okay, back to saying hello to all you lovely people. Hi, Selena. Oh, it's the same intro, darling. But thanks and credit go to Devil for piecemealing all of that together. This is awesome. Hey, Static, what's up? Thank you for being here. You too, Jack. And reminding the lovely people to hit the like button or smash the like. Let me. If I'm gonna read to you, I should be able to read the chat. Static, I'm gonna call you out. Her name's right there, my friend. The lovely Sherry. Hi, how's it going? Welcome. Appreciate you being here. Sorry if you're no longer here because my computer muted me. Hopefully that doesn't happen while I'm reading. Like I have it plugged into like a USB extender thing. It's a whole thing. I'm gonna stop using thing. It's so nondescript. Let's see. Jack, muted. Sorry. Oh, you didn't even hear my Cook in the Book intro thing that I do? Oops. Say la vie. Anyone else come in? Hi, Cal. How's it going? Did I miss earlier? Oh, you told me I was muted. Thank you. Yeah, the Frankenstein monster got me. My bad, y'all. Yeah, I saw this. Real cute, Cal. Real cute. Techology? Yeah, it is. It's a bitch. Isn't it great, Sal? Like, I love this. I haven't found any flaws in like the wrapping of it, so it's just awesome. I adore it. Thank you, Selena. I will try to get better. The Flonase hopefully will. I started it on Friday. Yes, my dear, it is metal. It is thick. Could probably use it as a self-defense tool if needed. Glad I sold you. That's what I'm here for. That's why I get shit like this, so I can promote it and gush over things that I super duper love. So, oh, I see, hon. No worries. I'm just not even going to comment, Static. Learn to spell. I guess that's my comment. And read. I cannot control it. It's no longer attached to me. So what it does running around the interwebs is out of my control. Not my responsibility. Sorry. Try not to engage. I need to follow that rule, but probably going to be difficult. All right. Now that we're over 10 minutes into this, thank you, everybody. I do have it on Rumble. Hopefully it's working. Do I? Oh, there it is. Now it's working. Wasn't not working. I know. So we're on Rumble and YouTube because I figured out how to do Rumble. Yay, me. Sweet. So what happened? He was just giving the backstory of everything, I guess. Huh? The monster. I mean, that's really the basic recap. It is a very long backstory of a childlike adult being who doesn't know any languages or anything, is traversing the world, and he eventually finds, after he gets maltreated at a few villages, he learns to kind of just hide himself away, and he finds this area next to a pigsty that is next to a small, 3 people in it, father, son, and daughter. And he slowly is able to teach himself the language. Teach himself the language? Yeah. But not where he really has a true understanding of it. And then there shows up this beautiful woman, Arabian. Something where it's the Arabian. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name properly. Safi. Yeah, she's a Christian Arab. Something is not muted. It's my YouTube. There it is. Yeah, muted. I wonder if I. Okay. Sorry, I was hearing my voice through my headphones. Yeah, and so they find out that, well, he finds out that Safi is basically in love with the son's in love with her, and her father had gotten into a spot of trouble in France, and the son took it upon himself to help him escape, and along the way had fallen in love with the daughter, but the dad was never going to let them stay together. So after he got out and was on the run, his plan was to just keep him on the leash until he could steal her back away to Turkey or wherever they were. Hi, Clinton. How's it going? Welcome. I'm just doing a bit of a recap of last time. And so the father and the sister, it was found out what the son was doing. So they got put in prison. So the son left and told them to stay where they were. And he was going to go turn himself in, but find them again later, whatever. He ends up getting imprisoned, and they don't let his father and sister go. And basically that's kind of where we're at. Safi. Oh, yeah. She was able to escape her father once she learned of his plans to not let her go. She was raised by her Christian Arab mother, and so she's very strong-willed and independent, and so she is not gonna Similarly to her mother, she's not going to follow her father's will and go back and essentially be human trafficked or married off to a terrible life. And so she sets off with someone who speaks the language. I think they were in Italy. She sets off with that person as like an escort because she doesn't speak the language. And I just lost my train of thought. Her guide, her interpreter, whatnot, I believe died along the way, but she was able to find someone who eventually got her to the cottage. And she started learning the language after she got there. And so the monster was able to learn the language with her as well. And so he's now able to, like, I think, read at this point. But yeah, that's essentially where we're at. Yep, that is where we are at because her story ended. This was like the story within the story that was within the story that's within the story. So that is where we ended, where she, the Italian had mentioned the name of the spot for which they were bound. And after her death, the woman of the house in which they had lived took care that Safi should arrive in safety at the cottage of her lover. So she hasn't quite got there yet, but that was the ultimate plan. She found someone else to get her there safely. I have discovered recently, because of this stupid cough, that I really like ginger tea. And I found this thing at Sprouts that is like a gel. So it's a ginger honey tea, but it's already like combined. So it's, I believe how it's made is it's probably just ginger root inside of honey. It is really good. That's not what this is. This is actually a bag of tea that's ginger tea. I don't know if I want to say hi to Dermy, so I will say hi to I Rock Backwards, or I was going to say Corey. Is that your name? I don't want to say hi to you because both of your comments suck, Dermy. I know that I Rock Backwards was on the screen. That's not who I was talking to. I was talking to Dermy. I apologize if you thought that that was you. And let's see, your other stupid comment. I don't really know who Gajal is, but thanks. Yeah, it's kind of like a tea concentrate, I guess. Yeah. It's hard to explain, but it's a gel that you just put, I think it says 4 teaspoons. I just kind of, I fuck it when I put it in there. I don't know if I should take this as a compliment. I meant to say that. I apologize. But not Hayden. Just me. Okay. Let me just make sure everything is in order, figure out what chapter I left off on because I didn't remember. 7. Are we in volume 3? I'm losing it, I swear. This has to be volume 3. Or was this still volume 2? I definitely am fully organized today. Can't you tell? It is volume 2. Thank you, Dom. God, and then I went too far again. I'm gonna find it. There it is, volume 2. Sweet. Oh yeah, you guys like bullied me into doing another chapter last time. I forgot about that. Hi, James. How's it going? All right. Without further ado, I think that we should get rolling on this. All right. We got Frankenstein, Volume 2, Chapter 7. Such was the history of my beloved cottagers. It impressed me deeply. I learned from the views of social life which it developed to admire their virtues and to deprecate the vices of mankind. As yet I looked upon crime as a distant evil. Benevolence and generosity were ever present before me, inciting within me a desire to become an actor in the busy scene where so many admirable qualities were called forth and displayed. But in giving an account of the progress of my intellect, I must not omit a circumstance which occurred in the beginning of the month of August of the same year. One night, during my accustomed visit to the neighboring wood where I collected my own food and brought home firing for my protectors, I found on the ground a leathern portmanteau containing several articles of dress and some books. I'm going to say it's a suitcase. I could be wrong. I eagerly seized the prize and returned with it to my hovel. Fortunately, the books were written in the language, the elements of which I had acquired at the cottage. They consisted of Paradise Lost, a volume of Plutarch's Lives, see how much I've read of those things, and The Sorrows of Werter. The possession of these treasures gave me extreme delight. I now continually studied and exercised my mind upon these histories, whilst my friends were employed in their ordinary occupations. I can hardly describe to you the effect of these books. They produced in me an infinity of new images and feelings that sometimes raised me to ecstasy, but more frequently sunk me into the lowest dejection. In The Sorrows of Werter, besides the interest of its simple and affecting story, so many opinions are canvassed, and so many lights thrown upon what had hitherto been to me obscure subjects, that I found in it a never-ending source of speculation and astonishment. The gentle and domestic manners it described, combined with lofty sentiments and feelings, which had for their object something out of self, accorded well with my experience among my protectors and with the wants which were forever alive in my own bosom. But I thought Werter himself a more divine being than I had ever beheld or imagined. His character contained no pretension, but it sunk deep. The disquisitions upon death and suicide were calculated to fill me with wonder. I did not pretend to enter into the merits of the case, yet I inclined towards the opinions of the hero, whose extinction I wept without precisely understanding it. As I read, however, I applied much personally to my own feelings and condition. I found myself similar, yet at the same time strangely unlike to the beings concerning whom I read, and to whose conversation I was a listener. I sympathized with and partly understood them, but I was uninformed in mind. I was dependent on none and related to none. The path of my departure was free, and there was none to lament my annihilation. My person was hideous, and my stature gigantic. What did this mean? Who was I? What was I? Whence did I come? What was my destination? These questions continually recurred, but I was unable to solve them. The volume of Plutarch's Lives, which I possessed, contained the histories of the first founders of the ancient republics. This book had a far different effect upon me from the Sorrows of Werter. I learned from Werter's imaginations despondency and gloom, but Plutarch taught me high thoughts. He elevated me above the wretched sphere of my own reflections, to admire and love the heroes of past ages. Many things I read surpassed my understanding and experience. I had a very confused knowledge of kingdoms, wide extents of country, mighty rivers, and boundless seas. But I was perfectly unacquainted with towns and large assemblages of men. The cottage of my protectors had been the only school in which I had studied human nature, but this book developed new and mightier scenes of action. I read of men concerned in public affairs, governing or massacring their species. I felt the greatest ardor for virtue rise within me and abhorrence for vice, as far as I understood the signification of those terms, relative as they were, as I applied them to pleasure and pain alone. Induced by these feelings, I was, of course, led to admire peaceable lawgivers, Numa, Solon, and Lycurgus, in preference to Romulus and Theseus. The patriarchal lives of my protectors caused these impressions to take a firm hold on my mind. Perhaps if my first introduction to humanity had been made by a young soldier burning for glory and slaughter, I should have been imbued with different sensations. But Paradise Lost excited different and far deeper emotions. I read it, as I had read the other volumes which had fallen into my hands, as a true history. It moved every feeling of wonder and awe that the picture of an omnipotent God warring with his creatures was capable of exciting. I often referred the several situations, as their similarity struck me, to my own. Like Adam, I was apparently united by no link to any other being in existence, but his state was far different from mine in every other respect. Lost my spot. I died. He had come forth from the hands of God, a perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guarded by the especial care of his Creator. He was allowed to converse with and acquire knowledge from beings of a superior nature. But I was wretched, helpless, and alone. Many times I considered Satan as the fitter emblem of my condition. For often, like him, when I viewed the bliss of my protectors, the bitter gall of envy rose within me. Another circumstance strengthened and confirmed these feelings. Soon after my arrival in the hovel, I discovered some papers in the pocket of the dress which I had taken from your laboratory. I almost just said it like Dexter. Laboratory. At first, I had neglected them, but now that I was able to decipher the characters in which they were written, I began to study them with diligence. It was your journal of the 4 months that preceded my creation. You minutely described in these papers every step you took in the progress of your work. This history was mingled with accounts of domestic occurrences. You doubtless recollect these papers. Here they are. Everything is related in them which bears reference to my cursed origin. The whole detail of that series of disgusting circumstances which produced it is set in view. The minutest description of my odious and loathsome person is given in language which painted your own horrors and rendered mine indelible. I sickened as I read. Hateful day when I received life, I exclaimed in agony. Accursed creator! Why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God, in pity, made man beautiful and alluring, after his own image. But my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred. These were the reflections of my hours of despondency and solitude. But when I contemplated the virtues of the cottagers, their amiable and benevolent dispositions, I persuaded myself that when they should become acquainted with my admiration of their virtues, they would compassionate me and overlook my personal deformity. Could they turn from their door one, however monstrous, who solicited their let me start that sentence over. I apologize. Could they turn from their door one however monstrous, who solicited their compassion and friendship? I resolved at least not to despair, but in every way to fit myself for an interview with them, which would decide my fate. I postponed this attempt for some months longer, for the importance attached to its success inspired me with a dread lest I should fail. Besides, I found that my understanding improved so much with their day's experience that I was unwilling to commence this undertaking until a few more months should have added to my sagacity. Several changes in the meantime took place in the cottage. The presence of Safi diffused happiness among its inhabitants, and I also found that a greater degree of plenty reigned there. Felix and Agatha spent more time in amusement and conversation, and were assisted in their labors by servants. They did not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. Their feelings were serene and peaceful, while mine became every day more tumultuous. Increase of knowledge only discovered to me more clearly what a wretched outcast I was. I cherished hope, it is true, but it vanished when I beheld my person reflected in water, or my shadow in the moonshine, even as that frail image and that inconsistent shade. I endeavored to crush these fears and to fortify myself for the trial which in a few months I resolved to undergo. And sometimes I allowed my thoughts, unchecked by reason, to ramble in the fields of paradise, and dared to fancy amiable and lovely creatures sympathizing with my feelings and cheering my gloom. Their angelic countenances breathed smiles of consolation, but it was all a dream. No Eves soothed my sorrows, nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his Creator, but where was mine? He had abandoned me, and in the bitterness of my heart, I cursed him. Autumn passed thus. I saw with surprise and grief the leaves decay and fall, and nature again assume the barren and bleak appearance it had worn when I first beheld the woods and the lovely moon. Yet I did not heed the bleakness of the weather. I was better fitted by my conformation for the endurance of cold than heat. But my chief delights were the sight of the flowers, the birds, and all the gay apparel of summer. When those deserted me, I turned with more attention towards the cottagers. Their happiness was not decreased by the absence of summer. They loved and sympathized with one another, and their joys, depending on each other, were not interrupted by the casualties that took place around them. The more I saw of them, the greater became my desire to claim their protection and kindness. My heart yearned to be known and loved by these amiable creatures. To see their sweet looks directed towards me with affection was the utmost limit of my ambition. I dared not think that they would turn them from me with disdain and horror. The poor that stopped at their door were never driven away. I asked, it is true, for greater treasures than a little food or rest. I required kindness and sympathy, but I did not believe myself unworthy of it. The winter advanced, and an entire revolution of the seasons had taken place since I awoke into life. My attention at this time was solely directed towards my plan of introducing myself into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved many projects, but that on which I finally fixed was to enter the dwelling when the blind old man should be alone. I had sagacity enough to discover that the unnatural hideousness of my person was the chief object of horror with those who had formerly beheld me. My voice, although harsh, had nothing terrible in it. I thought, therefore, that if in the absence of his children I could gain the goodwill and mediation of the old de Lacy, I might by his means be tolerated by my younger protectors. It's not a bad plan. If you recall, the elder de Lacy is blind. Yes, blind. One day, when the sun shone on the red leaves that strewed the ground and diffused cheerfulness, although it denied warmth, Safi, Agatha, and Felix departed on a long country walk, and the old man, at his own desire, was left alone in the cottage. When his children had departed, he took up his guitar and played several mournful but sweet airs, more sweet and mournful than I had ever heard him play before. At first, his countenance was illuminated with pleasure, but as he continued, thoughtfulness and sadness succeeded. At length, laying aside the instrument, he sat absorbed in reflection. My heart beat quick. This was the hour and moment of trial, which would decide my hopes or realize my fears. The servants were gone to a neighboring fair. All was silent in and around the cottage. It was an excellent opportunity. Yet, when I proceeded to execute my plan, my limbs failed me, and I sank to the ground. Again I rose, and exerting all the firmness of which I was master, removed the planks which I had placed before my hovel to conceal my retreat. The fresh air revived me, and with renewed determination I approached the door of their cottage. I knocked. "Who is there?" said the old man. "Come in." I entered. "Pardon this intrusion," said I. "I am a traveler in want of a little rest. You would greatly oblige me if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire." "Enter," said De Lacy, "and I will try in what manner I can to relieve your wants. But, unfortunately, my children are from home, and I am blind, and I am afraid I shall find it difficult to procure food for you." "Do not trouble yourself, my kind host. I have food. It is warmth and rest only that I need." Just a second. I could feel my voice giving out a little. I sat down and a silence ensued. I knew that every minute was precious to me, yet I remained irresolute in what manner to commence the interview, when the old man addressed me. "By your language, stranger, I suppose you are my countryman. Are you French?" "No, but I was educated by a French family, and understand that language only. I am now going to claim the protection of some friends whom I sincerely love, and of whose favor I have some hopes." "Are they Germans?" "No, they are French. But let us change the subject. I am an unfortunate and deserted creature. I looked around, and I have no relation or friend upon earth. These amiable people to whom I go have never seen me, and know little of me. I am full of fears, for I fail there. I am an outcast in the world forever. For if I fail there. My apologies. Do not despair. To be friendless is indeed to be unfortunate, but the hearts of men, when unprejudiced by any obvious self-interest, are full of brotherly love and charity. Rely, therefore, on your hopes, and if these friends are good and amiable, do not despair. They are kind. They are the most excellent creatures in the world, but unfortunately they are prejudiced against me. I have good dispositions. My life has been hitherto harmless and in some degree beneficial. But a fatal prejudice clouds their eyes, and where they ought to see a feeling and kind friend, they behold only a detestable monster. That is indeed unfortunate, but if you are really blameless, cannot you undeceive them? I am about to undertake that task, and it is on that account that I feel so many overwhelming terrors. I tenderly love these friends. I have, unknown to them, been for many months in the habits of daily kindness towards them, but they believe that I wish to injure them, and it is that prejudice which I wish to overcome. Where do these friends reside? Near this spot. The old man paused and then continued. If you will unreservedly confide to me the particulars of your tale, I perhaps may be of use in undeceiving them. I am blind and cannot judge of your countenance, but there is something in your words which persuades me that you are sincere. I am poor and in exile, but it will afford me true pleasure to be in any way serviceable to a human creature. Excellent man, I thank you and accept your generous offer. You raise me from the dust by this kindness, and I trust that, by your aid, I shall not be driven from the society and sympathy of your fellow creatures. Heaven forbid, even if you are really criminal, for that can only drive you to desperation and not instigate you to virtue. I also am unfortunate. I and my family have been condemned, although innocent. Judge, therefore, if I do not feel for your misfortunes. How can I thank you, my best and only benefactor? From your lips first have I heard the voice of kindness directed towards me. I shall be forever grateful, and your present humanity assures me of success with those friends whom I am on the point of meeting. May I know the names and residence of those friends? I paused. This, I thought, was the moment of decision. which was to rob me of or bestow happiness on me forever. I struggled vainly for firmness sufficient to answer him, but the effort destroyed all my remaining strength. I sank on the chair and sobbed aloud. At that moment, I heard the steps of my younger protectors. I had not a moment to lose, but seizing the hand of the old man, I cried, "Now is the time. Save and protect me. You and your family are the friends whom I seek. Do not desert me in the hour of trial." "Great God!" exclaimed the old man. "Who are you?" At that instant, the cottage door was opened, and Felix, Sapphi, and Agatha entered. Who can describe their horror and consternation on beholding me? Agatha fainted, and Sapphi, unable to attend to her friend, rushed out of the cottage. Felix darted forward, and with supernatural force tore me from his father, to whose knees I clung. In a transport of fury, he dashed me to the ground and struck me violently with a stick. I could have torn him limb from limb as the lion rends the antelope. But my heart sunk within me as with bitter sickness, and I refrained. I saw him on the point of repeating his blow when, overcome by pain and anguish, I quitted the cottage and in the general tumult escaped unperceived to my hovel. Well, that was terrible timing, but I had a feeling it was coming. Technically, it's his own fault because he hesitated so much. So you kind of like reap what you sow there, at least. I mean, oh God, freaking chat. Skipping. Technically, Kel, I believe many reference him as Adam. Not Clancy, but who knows? Maybe you're right. That does not seem fun, James. Are they just burning a lot of wood? It's in your general direction? We're good. Yeah, good. Better than we have been in a while. The books include Johann Wolfgang von, I don't know how to pronounce that, Sorrows of Werther, a volume of Plutarch's, is it Lives or Lives? So like life or the living. Mm-hmm. Like we live. And John Milton's Paradise Lost. Duly noted. And thank you for looking that up, Dom. I did see that while I was glancing up every now and again to make sure that the stream was still on. And I did see this. Real cute. Ah, but did you get the pronunciation of it? Dom. I'll look it up later, though. I guess I could look it up now, huh? Here. Let me do it. I'm gonna do it. And you get to hear my lovely keys that everybody complains about. Pronunciation. Lycurgus, so it's a hard G. Very well. Lycurgus. My apologies for not knowing all the words. I do the best I can. I feel like the last time you said something like this, you said better than Beardo, so the bar has risen at least a small amount. That's good, I guess. So thank you. I'm fine. At this point, like, it's not a dry cough. Like, my throat's a little scratchy, which is a good sign because the reason I'm coughing is generally it's allergy gunk in my throat. I don't want to hear the jokes or see them. Mary Shelley's original novel does not give the character a specific name. In the novel, Victor Frankenstein variously refers to his creation as the creature, fiend, specter, demon. Is that daemon or demon? Because I interchange them. Wretch, devil, thing, being, and ogre. Oh, see, I wasn't going to get that joke. First of all, Clancy Brown sounds like a very, very old 1920s-esque name. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't know who he is and have never seen him in anything. It's possible I have, though. Well, I figured they were trying to stay warm. Sorry, the smoke gets sent your way. Oh, by the way, because my lovely, beautiful bestie reminded y'all of this, I'm going to remind you of something that I didn't say in the beginning. Slightly distracted. I do have a Stream Elements link if anyone wants to make use of it. There is no requirement, but it's pinned in the chat for Rumble and YouTube. I do call myself a reader. I'm not sure in what that's a reference, but I'm going to carry on because I am a reader. Do you read better than Dermy? That's the question. Oh, I don't know. Let's have the chat decide. Maybe we should put a poll out on Twitter. I do feel bad for the monster. That doesn't mean that I will later. Currently, I do. Yes. Oh, I see your comment, Static. Well, bite me. There's that. You'll hear people argue that his name is Adam based on a passage wherein the creature compares himself to the biblical first man, but that's not his name. You mean the passage that I read just now? Or there's probably a few, because I feel like he might have said it earlier too, like last stream. And I think I was having a chat with Sam, potentially before I even started reading this, where he's mentioned that. And that's the only reason I said Adam. Also because I had just read in that passage, that part. Okay, let's see. How pissed is Kel at me? Clancy Brown, the Kurgan drill instructor Zim. No idea from what that is at all. Are those movie titles? I mean, I'm assuming the drill instructor Zim is a character, or is the movie the Kurgan and drill instructor Zim is... I'm probably digging deeper, aren't I? Whatever. You've never watched Ballbusters, James? I'm insulted. I produce for Dermy. It's a late show, though. I dislike SpongeBob with a passion. So, and isn't Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob? I could be wrong. I don't know, though. Oh, Zim from... I don't remember. Is that like the... Wait, you said drill instructor Zim. Okay, fine. I guess I do know who he is. And do you know how long it's been since I've seen Highlander? I enjoy those films. But I was a kid. I need to rewatch them, and I'd been wanting to for a while. I fail. It's all good, James. I was only teasing. definitely better that you focus on your health and watch Ballbusters, though, until, you know, you're fully 100%. It might cause heart attacks or seizures. You never know. Easily. It's childish and annoying. And I also babysat a neighbor who constantly wanted to watch that and Dora the Explorer, and there was another one, I think. I don't quite remember, but I hate it. I'm not a failed nerd. Yeah, Ballbusters is bad for your health. He has a point. To address this better, I'm not a failed nerd. I'm just a nerd that has a terrible memory. As I have stated for the last 2 years. So there's that. Year. Has it been 2 years? When did I start this crap? See, I'm not the only one. Ha! I could see it. Don't put this wee crap. I was in my teens. I was a teenager, not a kid. You might have been a kid. Oh, shit. Are you kidding me? Well, I was in double digits. You weren't. I don't care. I was a preteen. 99? Seriously? I don't know if those are all one word or not. SpongeBob SquarePants. Oops, I forgot the E. 1999. Thanks, Dom, for the reminder that I'm old. That's great of you. That's awesome. FML. I mean, he's kind of an agent of chaos, so don't be shocked at Dom causing it. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Dom is going to be the 199. That would have been funny if he forgot a 9. Oh, and I'm wearing the Halloween. It's a clean hoodie. I have like at minimum 10 hoodies, but I need to like wash all of them because it's cold and I wear them all the time. All right. Let's get back to Not Adam's Story. Volume 2, Chapter 8. Cursed creature. Why did I live? Why, in that instant, did I not extinguish the spark of existence which you had so wantonly bestowed? I know not. Despair had not yet taken possession of me. My feelings were those of rage and revenge. I could with pleasure have destroyed the cottage and its inhabitants and have glutted myself with their shrieks and misery. When night came, I quitted my retreat and wandered in the wood, and now, no longer restrained by the fear of discovery, I gave vent to my anguish in fearful howlings. I was like a wild beast that had broken the toils, destroying the objects that obstructed me and ranging through the wood with a stag-like swiftness. Oh, what a miserable night I passed. The cold stars shone in mockery, and the bare trees waved their branches above me. Now and then the sweet voice of a bird burst forth amidst the universal stillness. All save I were at rest or in enjoyment. I, like the archfiend, bore a hell within me, and finding myself unsympathized with, wished to tear up the trees, spread havoc and destruction around me, and then to have sat down and enjoyed the ruin. But this was a luxury of sensation that could not endure. I became fatigued with excess of bodily exertion, and sank on the damp grass in the sick impotence of despair. There was none among the myriads of men that existed who would pity or assist me. And should I feel kindness towards my enemies? No. From that moment, I declared everlasting war against the species, and more than all, against him who had formed me and sent me forth to this insupportable misery. The sun rose. I heard the voices of men and knew that it was impossible to return to my retreat during that day. Accordingly, I hid myself in some thick underwood, determining to devote the ensuing hours to reflection on my situation. The pleasant sunshine and the pure air of day restored me to some degree of tranquility. And when I considered what had passed at the cottage, I could not help believing that I had been too hasty in my conclusions. I had certainly acted imprudently. It was apparent that my conversation had interested the father in my behalf, and I was a fool in having exposed my person to the horror of his children. I ought to have familiarized the old De Lacy to me, and by degrees to have discovered myself to the rest of his family, when they should have been prepared for my approach. But I did not believe my errors to be irretrievable, and after much consideration I resolved to return to the cottage, seek the old man, and by my representations win him to my party. These thoughts calmed me, and in the afternoon I sank into a profound sleep. But the fever of my blood did not allow me to be visited by peaceful dreams. The horrible scene of the preceding day was forever acting before my eyes. The females were flying, and the enraged Felix tearing me from my father's feet. I awoke exhausted, and finding that it was already night, I crept forth from my hiding place and went in search of food. When my hunger was appeased, I directed my steps towards the well-known path that conducted to the cottage. All there was at peace. I crept into my hovel and remained in silent expectation of the accustomed hour when the family arose. That hour passed, the sun mounted high in the heavens, but the cottagers did not appear. I trembled violently, apprehending some dreadful misfortune. The inside of the cottage was dark, and I heard no motion. I cannot describe the agony of this suspense. Presently, two countrymen passed by, but pausing near the cottage, they entered into conversation using violent gesticulations, but I did not understand what they said, as they spoke the language of the country, which differed from that of my protectors. Differed. Soon after, however, Felix approached with another man. I was surprised, as I knew that he had not quitted the cottage that morning, and waited anxiously to discover from his discourse the meaning of these unusual appearances. "Do you consider," said his companion to him, "that you will be obliged to pay 3 months' rent and to lose the produce of your garden? I do not wish to take any unfair advantage, and I beg, therefore, that you will take some days to consider of your determination." "It is utterly useless," replied Felix. "We can never again inhabit your cottage. The life of my father is in the greatest danger, owing to the dreadful circumstance that I have related. My wife and my sister will never recover from their horror. I entreat you not to reason with me any more. Take possession of your tenement and let me fly from this place." Felix trembled violently as he said this. He and his companion entered the cottage, in which they remained for a few minutes and then departed. I never saw any of the family of De Lacy more. I continued for the remainder of the day in my hovel in a state of utter and stupid despair. My protectors had departed and had broken the only link that held me to the world. For the first time, the feelings of revenge and hatred filled my bosom, and I did not strive to control them. But allowing myself to be borne away by the stream, I bent my mind towards injury and death. When I thought of my friends, of the mild voice of De Lacy, the gentle eyes of Agatha, and the exquisite beauty of the Arabian, these thoughts vanished, and a gush of tears somewhat soothed me. But again, when I reflected that they had spurned and deserted me, anger returned, a rage of anger, and unable to injure anything human, I turned my fury towards inanimate objects. As night advanced, I placed a variety of combustibles around the cottage, and after having destroyed every vestige of cultivation in the garden, I waited with forced impatience until the moon had sunk to commence my operations. As the night advanced, a fierce wind arose from the woods and quickly dispersed the clouds that had loitered in the heavens. The blast tore along like a mighty avalanche and produced a kind of insanity in my spirits that burst all bounds of reason and reflection. I lighted the dry branch of a tree and danced with fury around the devoted cottage, my eyes still fixed on the western horizon, the edge of which the moon nearly touched. A part of its orb was at length hid, and I waved my brand. It sank, and with a loud scream, I fired the straw and heath and bushes which I had collected. The wind fanned the fire, and the cottage was quickly enveloped by the flames, which clung to it and licked it with their forked and destroying tongues. As soon as I was convinced that no assistance could save any part of the habitation, I quitted the scene and sought for refuge in the woods. And now, with the fire before me, whither should I bend my steps? I resolved to fly far from the scene with my misfortunes, but to me, hated and despised, every country must be equally horrible. At length, the thought of you crossed my mind. I learned from your papers that you were my father, my creator, and to whom could I apply with more fitness than to him who had given me life? Among the lessons that Felix had bestowed upon Safie, geography had not been omitted. I had learned from these the relative situations of the different countries of the earth. You had mentioned Geneva as the name of your native town, and towards this place I resolved to proceed. But how was I to direct myself? I knew that I must travel in a southwesterly direction to reach my destination, but the sun was my only guide. I did not know the names of the towns that I was to pass through, nor could I ask information from a single human being, but I did not despair. From you only could I hope for succor, although towards you I felt no sentiment but that of hatred. Unfeeling, heartless creator, you had endowed me with perceptions and passions and then cast me abroad an object for the scorn and horror of mankind. But on you only had I any claim for pity and redress, and from you I determined to seek that justice which I vainly attempted to gain from any other being that wore the human form. My travels were long, and the sufferings I endured intense. It was late in autumn when I quitted the district where I had so long resided. I traveled only at night, fearful of encountering the visage of a human being. Nature decayed around me, and the sun became heatless. Rain and snow poured around me. Mighty rivers were frozen. The surface of the earth was hard and chill and bare, and I found no shelter. O earth, how often did I imprecate curses on the cause of my being? The mildness of my nature had fled, and all within me was turned to gall and bitterness. The nearer I approached to your habitation, the more deeply did I feel the spirit of revenge enkindled in my heart. Snow fell and the waters were hardened, but I rested not. A few incidents now and then directed me, and I possessed a map of the country, but I often wandered wide from my path. The agony of my feelings allowed me no respite. No incident occurred from which my rage and misery could not extract its food. But a circumstance that happened when I arrived on the confines of Switzerland, when the sun had recovered its warmth and the earth again began to look green, confirmed in an especial manner the bitterness and horror of my feelings. Give me a moment. I generally rested during the day and traveled only when I was secured by night from the view of man. One morning, however, finding that my path lay through a deep wood, I ventured to continue my journey after the sun had risen. The day, which was one of the first of spring, cheered even me by the loveliness of its sunshine and the balminess of the air. I felt emotions of gentleness and pleasure that had long appeared dead revive within me. Half surprised by the novelty of these sensations, I allowed myself to be borne away by them, and, forgetting my solitude and deformity, dared to be happy. Soft tears again bedewed my cheeks, and I even raised my humid eyes with thankfulness towards the blessed sun, which bestowed such joy upon me. I continued to wind among the paths of the wood until I came to its boundary, which was skirted by a deep and rapid river, into which many of the trees bent their branches, now budding with the fresh spring. Here I paused, not exactly knowing what path to pursue, when I heard the sound of voices that induced me to conceal myself under the shade of a cypress. I was scarcely hid when a young girl came running towards the spot where I was concealed, laughing as if she ran from someone in sport. She continued her course along the precipitous sides of the river when suddenly her foot slipped and she fell into the rapid stream. I rushed from my hiding place and, with extreme labor from the force of the current, saved her and dragged her to shore. She was senseless, and I endeavored, by every means in my power, to restore animation when I was suddenly interrupted by the approach of a rustic who was probably the person from whom she had playfully fled. On seeing me, he darted towards me and, tearing the girl from my arms, hastened towards the deeper parts of the wood. I followed speedily, I hardly knew why. But when the man saw me draw near, he aimed a gun which he carried at my body and fired. I sank to the ground, and my injurer, with increased swiftness, escaped into the wood. This was then the reward of my benevolence. I had saved a human being from destruction, and as a recompense, I now writhed under the miserable pain of a wound which shattered the flesh and bone. The feelings of kindness and gentleness, which I had entertained but a few moments before, gave place to hellish rage and gnashing of teeth. Inflamed by pain, I vowed eternal hatred and vengeance to all mankind. But the agony of my wound overcame me. My pulses paused, and I fainted. For some weeks, I led a miserable life in the woods, endeavoring to cure the wound which I had received. The ball had entered my shoulder, and I knew not whether it had remained there or passed through. At any rate, I had no means of extracting it. My sufferings were augmented also by the oppressive sense of the injustice and ingratitude of their infliction. My daily vows rose for revenge, a deep and deadly revenge, such as would alone compensate for the outrages and anguish I had endured. After some weeks, my wound healed, and I continued my journey. The labors I endeavored were no longer to be alleviated by the bright sun or gentle breezes of spring. All joy was but a mockery which insulted my desolate state, and made me feel more painfully that I was not made for the enjoyment of pleasure. But my toils now drew near a close, and in 2 months from this time, I reached the environs of Geneva. It was evening when I arrived, and I retired to a hiding place among the fields that surrounded it, to meditate in what manner I should apply to you. I was oppressed by fatigue and hunger, and far too unhappy to enjoy the gentle breezes of evening, or the prospect of the sun setting behind the stupendous mountains of Jura. At this time, a slight sleep relieved me from the pain of reflection, which was disturbed by the approach of a beautiful child who came running into the recess I had chosen, with all the sportiveness of infancy. Suddenly, as I gazed on him, an idea seized me that this little creature was unprejudiced, and had lived too short a time to have imbibed a horror of deformity. If, therefore, I could seize him and educate him as my companion and friend, I should not be so desolate in this peopled earth. Urged by my impulse, I seized on the boy as he passed and drew him towards me. As soon as he beheld my form, he placed his hands before his eyes and uttered a shrill scream. I drew my hand forcibly from his face and said, "Child, what is the meaning of this? I do not intend to hurt you. Listen to me." He struggled violently. "Let me go," he cried. "Monster, ugly wretch. You wish to eat me and tear me to pieces. You are an ogre. Let me go, or I will tell my papa. Boy, you will never see your father again. You must come with me." "Hideous monster, let me go. My papa is a syndic. He is M. Frankenstein. He will punish you. You dare not keep me." "Frankenstein? You belong then to my enemy, to him towards whom I have sworn eternal revenge. You shall be my first victim." Uh-oh, Dom. The child still struggled and loaded me with epithets which carried despair to my heart. I grasped his throat to silence him, and in a moment he lay dead at my feet. I gazed on my victim, and my heart swelled with exultation and hellish triumph. Clapping my hands, I exclaimed, I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable. This death will carry despair to him, and 1,000 other miseries shall torment and destroy him. As I fixed my eyes on the child, I saw something glittering on his breast. I took it. It was a portrait of a most lovely woman. In spite of my malignity, it softened and attracted me. For a few moments, I gazed with delight on her dark eyes, fringed by deep lashes, and her lovely lips. But presently my rage returned. I remembered that I was forever deprived of the delights that such beautiful creatures could bestow, and that she whose resemblance I contemplated would, in regarding me, have changed that air of divine benignity to one expressive of disgust and affright. Can you wonder that such thoughts transported me to rage? I only wonder that at that moment, instead of venting my sensations in exclamations and agony, I did not rush among mankind and perish in the attempt to destroy them. While I was overcome by these feelings, I left the spot where I had committed the murder, and seeking a more secluded hiding place, I entered a barn which had appeared to me to be empty. A woman was sleeping on some straw. She was young, not indeed so beautiful as her whose portrait I held, but of an agreeable aspect and blooming in the loveliness of youth and health. Here, I thought, is one of those whose joy-imparting smiles are bestowed on all but me. And then I bent over her and whispered, Awake, fairest, thy lover is near. He who would give his life but to obtain one look of affection from thine eyes, my beloved, awake. The sleeper stirred. A thrill of terror ran through me. Should she indeed awake and see me and curse me and denounce the murderer? Thus would she assuredly act if her darkened eyes opened and she beheld me. The thought was madness. It stirred the fiend within me. Not I, but she shall suffer. The murder I have committed because I am forever robbed of all that she could give me, she shall atone. The crime had its source in her. Be hers the punishment. Thanks to the lessons of Felix and the sanguinary laws of man, I had learned how to work mischief. I bent over her and placed the portrait securely in one of the folds of her dress. She moved again, and I fled. For some days I haunted the spot where these scenes had taken place, sometimes wishing to see you, sometimes resolved to quit the world and its miseries forever. At length I wandered towards these mountains, and have ranged through their immense recesses, consumed by a burning passion which you alone can gratify. We may not part until you have promised to comply with my requisition. I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me, but one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create. Bring me my bride, Frankenstein. Is this question to me, Kel? Because I think last week I mentioned I don't believe I've seen any of the media adaptations. And yes, Halloween IDOT. He's awesome looking. I love him. Yeah, screw Dora. I hate that show. What's up, Tommy? Hi, Snow. And a wild Snow appears because it's 7 o'clock and he wants food. Don't you? Say hi to the good people. Don't you the good people? No. Hi, Tommy. What's up, Cliff? Thank you for the 5 snacks. I appreciate it. Yes, an ogre has layers, as do onions. I feel like this is lyrics to a song. Told ya. You were starting to feel bad for him? I technically do still feel bad for him. But that doesn't mean that he gets to kill for recompense. What's up, Winky Wanky Woo? How's it going? It did not cross the pond proper like, so I therefore did not receive it. It's not that I ignored it. Speak for yourself. I'm not almost as bad as Cloud, thank you very much. I just haven't seen some things. And yes, Winky Wanky Woo, my hair is blue now. James says hi. He's ignoring you. Bullet with butterfly wings, smashing pumpkins. So the fact that you told me the name of the song, the title of the song, and who sings it is great. However, if I don't hear it, I probably don't know it. I mean, like, I won't register it. Pretty sure I know that song. It's just I don't know the title. All right, I'm going to feed this monster sitting in my lap holding me hostage. I will be right back. You can enjoy. Oh, I forgot I was robot me. Let me go back to my old image here. There it is. Done. I'll be back, but I guess I'll just leave this on screen. And guess who turned his nose up at food? If you guessed snow, you got it right. Colson's eating, though, so it wasn't a complete waste. None of my kittens are brats. They can just be a pain in the butt. Cloud has just seen plenty of other kind of movies, more like short films. Yeah. 38 seconds or so worth. At least for the main parts of the film. I mean, I get he was going through a tough time, but he murdered a kid and tried pinning it on someone else. Not tried, successfully pinned it on someone else who also lost their life. Just because people treat you poorly does not mean that all will and that all deserve punishment, because they don't. This is what revenge looks like eventually. It's not good. I don't know if you said that before or after I did, but I agree. Real cute, Cliff. Real cute. It does not. This is just as bad as saying that they're all bastards. They can be. That doesn't define them as such. It's just a quality they have when they want to. It later said it shot him like in the shoulder. I don't know which shoulder, but you also have to remember he's human, but kind of on a higher level. Nah, I'm just letting you two talk. So you heard the part where you shouldn't define them by one quality with which they have, because they have shining qualities as well. Just saying. Oh, hi, devil. He is, if not fully, in part, a Norwegian forest cat. He's probably bigger than my torso when like stretched out. He's fluffy. He's got really giant paws that have like little tufts of fur in between. I used to have another black cat, but he was just a short hair. So he was like the sleek looking black cats that you're used to. You know, which is familiar. I think this is the last chapter in the volume. Yeah, it's 9. So I'm going to get that started. Volume 2, Chapter 9. The being finished speaking and fixed his looks upon me in the expectation of a reply. We're now back to Victor's story, Victor Frankenstein. But I was bewildered, perplexed, and unable to arrange my ideas sufficiently to understand the full extent of his proposition. He continued, "You must create a female for me, with whom I can live in the interchange of those sympathies necessary for my being. This you alone can do, and I demand it of you as a right which you must not refuse to concede." The latter part of his tale had kindled anew in me the anger that had died away while he narrated his peaceful life among the cottagers, and as he said this, I could no longer suppress the rage that burned within me. "I do refuse it," I replied, "and no torture shall ever extort a consent from me. You may render me the most miserable of men, but you shall never make me base in my own eyes. Make me base in my own eyes. Shall I create another like yourself, whose joint wickedness might desolate the world? Begone! I have answered you. You may torture me, but I will never consent." "You are in the wrong," replied the fiend. And instead of threatening, I am content to reason with you. I am malicious because I am miserable. Am I not shunned and hated by all mankind? You, my creator, would tear me to pieces in triumph. Remember that, and tell me why I should pity man more than he pities me. You would not call it murder if you could precipitate me into one of those ice rifts and destroy my frame, the work of your own hands. Shall I respect man when he condemns me? It's misspelled. Unless contemns is some weird word that I don't know, with a T, as in tango. I'm going with condemns. Shall I respect man when he condemns me? Let him live with me in the interchange of kindness, and instead of injury, I would bestow every benefit upon him with tears of gratitude at his acceptance. But that cannot be. The human senses are insurmountable barriers to our union. Yet mine shall not be the submission of abject slavery. I will revenge my injuries. If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear, and chiefly towards you, my arch enemy, because my creator do I swear indistinguishable hatred. Have a care. I will work at your destruction, nor finish until I desolate your heart, so that you shall curse the hour of your birth. A fiendish rage animated him as he said this. His face was wrinkled into contortions too horrible for human eyes to behold. But presently he calmed himself and proceeded. I intended to reason. This passion is detrimental. This passion is detrimental to me, for you do not reflect that you are the cause of its excess. If any being felt emotions of benevolence towards me, I should return them an hundredfold. For that one creature's sake, I would make peace with the whole kind. But I now indulge in dreams of bliss that cannot be realized. What I ask of you is reasonable and moderate. I demand a creature of another sex, but as hideous as myself. The gratification is small, but it is all that I can receive, and it shall content me. It is true we shall be monsters, cut off from the world, but on that account we shall be more attached to one another. Our lives will not be happy, but they will be harmless and free from the misery I now feel. Oh, my Creator, make me happy. Let me feel gratitude towards you for one benefit. Let me see that I excite the sympathy of some existing thing. Do not deny me my request. I was moved. I shuddered when I thought of the possible consequences of my consent, but I felt that there was some justice in his argument. His tale and the feelings he now expressed proved him to be a creature of fine sensations, and I did not, as his maker, owe him all the portion of happiness that it was in my power to bestow. He saw my change of feeling and continued, If you consent, neither you nor any other human being shall ever see us again. I will go to the vast wilds of South America. My food is not that of man. I do not destroy the lamb and the kid to glut my appetite. Acorns and berries afford me sufficient nourishment. My companion will be of the same nature as myself and will content with the same fare. We shall make our bed of dried leaves. The sun will shine on us as on a man and will ripen our food. The picture I present to you is peaceful and human, and you must feel that you could deny it only in the wantonness of power and cruelty. Pitiless as you have been towards me, I now see compassion in your eyes. Let me seize the favorable moment and persuade you to promise what I so ardently desire. You propose, replied I, to fly from the habitations of man, to dwell in those wilds where the beasts of the field will be your only companions. How can you, who long for the love and sympathy of man, persevere in this exile? You will return and again seek their kindness, and you will be met with their detestation. Your evil passions will be renewed, and you will then have a companion to aid you in the task of destruction. This may not be. Cease to argue the point, for I cannot consent. How inconstant are your feelings? But a moment ago you were moved by my representations, and why do you again harden yourself to my complaints? I swear to you by the earth which I inhabit, and by you that made me, that with the companion you bestow, I will quit the neighborhood of man, and dwell, as it may chance, in the most savage of places. My evil passions will have fled, for I shall meet with sympathy. My life will flow quietly away, and in my dying moments I shall not curse my Maker. His words had a strange effect upon me. I compassionated him, and sometimes felt a wish to console him. But when I looked upon him, when I saw the filthy mass that moved and talked, my heart sickened and my feelings were altered to those of horror and hatred. I tried to stifle these sensations. I thought that as I could not sympathize with him, I had no right to withhold from him the small portion of happiness which was yet in my power to bestow. You swear, I said, to be harmless. But have you not already shown a degree of malice that should reasonably make me distrust you? May not even this be a feint that will increase your triumph by affording a wider scope for your revenge? How is this? I must not be trifled with, and I demand an answer. If I have no ties and no affections, hatred and vice must be my portion. The love of another will destroy the cause of my crimes, and I shall become a thing of whose existence everyone will be ignorant. My vices are the children of a forced solitude that I abhor, and my virtues will necessarily arise when I live in communion with an equal. I shall feel the affections of a sensitive being, and become linked to the chain of existence and events from which I am now excluded. I paused some time to reflect on all he had related, and the various arguments which he had employed. I thought of the promises of virtues which he had displayed on the opening of his existence, and the subsequent blight of all kindly feeling by the loathing and scorn which his protectors had manifested towards him. His power and threats were not omitted to my calculations. A creature who could exist in the ice caves of the glaciers and hide himself from pursuit among the ridges of inaccessible precipices was a being possessing faculties it would be vain to cope with. After a long pause of reflection, I concluded that the justice due both to him and my fellow creatures demanded of me that I should comply with his request. Turning to him, therefore, I said, I consent to your demand, on your solemn oath to quit Europe forever, and every other place in the neighborhood of man, as soon as I shall deliver into your hands a female who will accompany you in your exile. Thank you, Kel. I did not know that was a word. Interesting. I swear, he cried, by the sun and by the blue sky of heaven and by the fire of love that burns my heart, that if you grant my prayer, while they exist, you shall never behold me again. Depart to your home and commence your labors. I shall watch their progress with unutterable anxiety, and fear not but that when you are ready, I shall appear. Saying this, he suddenly quitted me, fearful, perhaps, of any change in my sentiments. I saw him descend the mountain with greater speed than the flight of an eagle, and quickly lost among the undulations of the sea of ice. His tale had occupied the whole day, and the sun was upon the verge of the horizon when he departed. I knew that I ought to hasten my descent towards the valley, as I should soon be encompassed in darkness, but my heart was heavy and my steps slow. The labor of winding among the little paths of the mountain and fixing my feet firmly as I advanced perplexed me, occupied as I was by the emotions which the occurrences of the day had produced. Night was far advanced when I came to the halfway resting place and seated myself beside the fountain. The stars shone at intervals as the clouds passed from over them. The dark pines rose before me, and every here and there a broken tree lay on the ground. It was a scene of wonderful solemnity and stirred strange thoughts within me. I wept bitterly, and clasping my hands in agony, I exclaimed, O stars and clouds and winds, ye are all about to mock me. If ye really pity me, crush sensation and memory. Let me become as naught. But if not, depart, and leave me in darkness. These were wild and miserable thoughts, but I cannot describe to you how the eternal twinkling of the stars weighed upon me, and how I listened to every blast of wind, as if it were a dull, ugly siroc on its way to consume me. Siroc? Morning dawned before I arrived at the village of Chamonix. I took no rest, but returned immediately to Geneva. Even in my own heart, I could give no expression to my sensations. They weighed on me with a mountain's weight, and their excess destroyed my agony beneath them. Thus I returned home, and entering the house, presented myself to the family. My haggard and wild appearance awoke intense alarm, but I answered no questions, scarcely did I speak. I felt as if I were placed under a ban, as if I had no right to claim their sympathies, as if never more might I enjoy companionship with them. Yet even thus I loved them to adoration, and to save them I resolved to dedicate myself to my most abhorred task. The prospect of such an occupation made every other circumstance of existence pass before me like a dream, and that thought only had to me the reality of life. End volume 2. I'm assuming it's pronounced the same as condemn. And that's what I'm going to go with. Thanks for looking it up, Kel. And do I trust Kel now? Oh, no, it is a word. Contemptible and despicable. To consider and treat as contemptible and despicable. Despise or scorn. Oh, what was that other word? Cyrock, I think. It just says C. Is it Sirach? Sirico? Let me get a pronunciation here. Scirocco. So Chirac. Interesting. A hot, dust-laden wind from the Libyan deserts that blows on the northern Mediterranean coast, chiefly in Italy, Malta, and Sicily. A warm, moist, oppressive southeast wind in the same regions. Hot or warm wind of cyclonic nature from an arid or heated region. So let me go back to the sentence here. How I listened to every blast of wind as if it were a dull, ugly Chirac on its way to consume me. Hot, dust-laden wind. There you go, everybody. Okay. Yes, he does glow a little. Static. It is hard to trust him. Mud crab, hi. I missed a start. Can we go back to the first slide? Negative, but you can go back and listen later. Tis indeed a word, my friend. Yeah, that's the word. That's how it's spelled. And it's pronounced with an SH starting the word. So, Chirac. You must suck to go through life hated and despised by people who look at you with disgust. We'll have to ask Dermy how that feels. It's true. So earlier I had said I still sympathize with his plight. So I can see why Victor, as I was reading it, you have two choices. You have the guaranteed loss of life by denying him his request, because he will go on a rampage for the rest of his life to destroy humankind, starting with his family. So there's really no choice there, but the other hand, which is give him what he wants, or attempt to give him what he wants. I have a feeling it's going to fail, which is going to suck for Frankenstein. Or I could be wrong and he changes his mind. But see, in my mind, that is a bigger mistake than the potential for his monster and the bride to go fuck off in the woods. What decision would you guys make? Because I know that I feel like 98% I would lean towards attempting to give him a bride. Name 5 things I did this week. I shit posted at least 5 times. I could send like an astronomical amount of things in reply to an email like that Doge sent out. It's just depressing to me, the amount of backlash that the young left has been giving for that, because it just means the up and coming workforce is going to be awful. It's already bad enough, but just so freaking annoying. Nice, Cliff. I see what you did there. If I were Victor, I would say, if you want me to make another creation for you, I need you to be there too. Then I would trick him and kill him. Remember, he's gigantic and has like 10 times the strength of humans or whatever. I don't know if there was actually a reference to how strong he is, but it's implied that he is rather strong. So that would have to be a well thought out plan, Dom, especially for someone as short as yourself. Yeah, I said it, but it's true. And I know because I'm short too. He's not actually asking for forgiveness. He didn't ask for forgiveness that I recall, at least. I'll go back and see. No worries, James. Have a good night. I'm probably going to end here soon anyway, just because it's a good place to end and my voice is breaking a little. So it's probably a good choice to end it soon. Like, I understand where you're coming from. And I do say what I said earlier, like I do still hold sympathy for him, like to an extent. But when you're thinking of the grand scheme of things, there's a guarantee that there's going to be many lives lost if you don't attempt to give him what he wants. On the other hand, do you hedge your bets and allow for the promise of no loss of life, no further loss of life, by granting him his desire? Now, the commentary on be careful what you wish for type of situation from the monsters side of things is also another topic at hand, because how does he know that he's going to be happy with someone who's as ugly as he is? Like, I mean, it'd be rich coming from him not to be happy with that, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know if that creature. So, like, no, he didn't ask to be created, right? So now comes, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Passengers. I'm sure it was based off of some other movie. That movie wasn't done well. They completely put the scenes out of order. They shouldn't have done it the way they did, but whatever. Who says that she's going to want to be created and that she won't resent him for the rest of their lives for being created because she doesn't love him and she didn't want this and she didn't make that promise? Just saying. Because then if he's not happy, he could be quick to anger again and start killing again. So there's no guarantee in any of these situations, except for the one that is don't give him what he wants and have a guaranteed what's the word I'm looking for? There's going to be loss of life no matter what in that scenario. However, technically, it may be the better solution because of the aforementioned things with the bride who isn't asking to be created. Because they could essentially defend themselves and kill the monster. Yes, there was loss of life. This is an interesting topic to me. And I'm just, here, spewing words. Dermy only has himself to blame. No one made him turn furry. I mean, not that I want to defend him. He just has a furry kink. Unless the lore has changed on any stream that I was not involved in. What? Come here. Come on. Hi. Okay. Yes, they are seeing a lot with my job. Yeah, the new people coming in and being awful. I would say I would need to knock you out for this experiment. Remember, the monster has become rather intelligent on his readings, to where he could manipulate the laws of the land. So keep in mind that he'd probably have questions and not fully trust Victor or you in this scenario. So he's not just going to fall over and say, okay, stick the needle in. I'll go to sleep. Yes, I am calling you short. Fight me. Dermy has demanded a VTuber girlfriend from his creator gal. Does she accept or does she allow him to rage? Tune in next week. Yeah, let's fucking rage. Quick, tell me what movie that's from. This is Victor's fault for creating him and running away from him, so Victor is not innocent here. That's true as well. You really need to watch Penny Dreadful. You just described the bride's entire arc in that show. Well, now that you ruined it for me. Sure, Sam, I'll go watch it now that I know what's going to happen. I guess we will have an interesting conversation. Yeah, that's true. So I've told Sam, I don't remember if I talked about it on here, but I started Penny Dreadful. I don't remember where I stopped. Like, if it was midway through the first season or wherever it was. I remember after this specific scene I stopped at, which was not for children's ears. Not that children are watching this, but still. I'm not his creator. I'm his producer. Why does that make it make sense, though? Excuse me. You're a dork, Cliff. As long as a VTuber is as ugly as him, Cal, we have to be book accurate. The cat is trying to smother. He's not trying to smother me. How is he going to steal? He'd just get me more subs. Right, Libby? Right. I really don't think that he's dumb enough to fall for that. You win. Dom, you suck because you came in second. Way to go, Static. Although it does say the same time that it came in, but Statics came in first on StreamYard, so blame StreamYard if you would like. Barely. You're barely taller than me. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. I need more tea so I don't actually lose my voice. You didn't just Oh, you told Static? Is this true? Did Dom tell you the answer as he's trying to claim? Cliff is backing him up. I'm just saying. Anyway, thank you everybody for hanging out. I appreciate it. I already said that. It's worth saying twice. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And everybody have a good evening. I will see you in a week or so. Yeah, in March next month. Haha. Have a good night, everybody.